Hello, people of YouTube. My name is JD Shadow, and this is more or less gonna be a video concerning something that has taken, quite frankly, YouTube and Twitter by storm. In case you are not aware about certain things that have transpired, and I talked about this in brief on the special report, in which I talked about the Fine brothers in their quest in order to get React World off the ground, and that fell flat on its face, and rightfully so. You may have caught wind of me talking about something that Doug Walker had said concerning weird takedown notifications on several of not only his content, but also of other content such as Blip and I Hate Everything. Now, I personally do not know much about these two content creators. I do know a lot about Doug Walker. He is a nostalgia critic, and I have agreed with him on a lot of things. I have disagreed with him on a lot of things too, to say let me review, right, don't ya? But in any event, one thing is made perfectly clear in his latest video entitled WTFU, hashtag WTFU. And that is standing for Where's the Fair Use? Basically saying that YouTube has been in a sort of a flux recently, especially recently with the recent takedown notifications, in which whenever they get a takedown notification from a big name, big wig Hollywood creator, whether it be Disney or Universal, Warner, whatever, they are forced in order to comply with it, and is usually a guilty until proven innocent, a shoot first and ask questions later robotic approach. And this is also going more into the way you have to go about getting an email to talk to a human being on YouTube. It is near impossible to do so unless you are getting a humongous amount of views per 90 days on YouTube. I think it's about 500,000 views or something. I don't know the exact number, but it's pretty damn high, more than most of us will probably see. So good luck trying to get to a human being on that front. And this is because of the whole situation that Viacom forced YouTube into when it tried to sue them for what it was basically anything and everything, and they really went after YouTube. But by that time, Google had bought YouTube, and they had the legal muscle in order to do something about it. Unfortunately, that was the DMCA, the Digital Media Copyright Act, which has haunted us to this very day. We have seen ever since then an abuse of the system, and it was made to be abused. Let's be quite frank, it was not written very well. It has left the door open for abuse, it has left the door open for people to impersonate other content creators, to spite other content creators, to stifle competition. It has been used to abuse what is called the fair use doctrine, which basically means that a certain portion of copyrighted material can be used for educational and or review purposes or something of that nature without having to go get permission or having to pay the content creator in order to use it. And what this is supposed to do is to prevent those people who have copyrighted material to try to censor reviewers because they might be critical of a person's work. This prevents somebody from trying to censor people like movie reviewers, or as I said, for educational purposes. Now, before I go any further as to what this WTFU actually is, let's talk about the two ways a video could be flagged. It could be flagged for a content ID match, or it could be flagged for a copyright strike. A content ID claim basically means that even though your video is still on YouTube, somebody else is making money off of the views that that particular video gets. Now, if you are not monetizing any kind of videos, you're just using it as a dumping ground or whatever, you might be flagged for piracy after a while. However, you might not see that as any big deal. However, for somebody who's doing blogs, for somebody who's making a living off of YouTube, for somebody who is trying to get out there as a content creator, this poses a problem because of not only everything going to the person who flagged the video, who had claimed the video, but the appeal process is demanding on you. You have to, first of all, wait a full 30 days after you've put in the counterclaim and wait and see whether or not that person is going to reinstate the claim. If they do that, then you have to file an appeal, then it'll take another 30 days, and if they come back again, then they go to a copyright strike. And this is the most crippling thing of all. Even one strike can severely cripple your channel. You cannot upload any more than 15 minutes. if you only get 1 strike. That is severe. That is very severe, and that is one of the things that Doug Walker had talked about on his video. And of course, I am the one that had gotten the 3 strikes. Now, the one thing that he messed up on is that when you get 3 strikes, you're not automatically deleted from YouTube. It's just that your channel is deleted, but it's not completely deleted from YouTube. You have 7 days from the time that you got the 3rd strike in order to file what is called a counter notification to one of the 3 strikes. After you file that, then the only way that a company can keep your video off of YouTube is if they take you to court about it, and 9 times out of 10 they are not going to do that. That is the big thing. That is the big kahuna. That is basically saying you're opening up the floodgates for a very long legal battle, which not many companies are willing to do. But that takes a long time, and very long time in order for anybody to want to deal with. Now, the 4th strike, there is a 4th copyright strike you could get, and that means that if you get that, then your channel is permanently deleted immediately. You do not get that grace period. You do not get anything. Your channel goes away. You cannot reinstate your channel, period. There is nothing you can do about it after that. It takes 10 business days from the time that YouTube authorizes that particular counter notification that you have sent out. They have to approve it and send it out there, in 10 days for them to respond to it before your video is reinstated and your copyright strike is removed. If that's not an option for you, then 6 months is what you have to wait, and that is a long time to wait for a crippling effect to happen to your channel. Now, mostly Doug Walker was talking about people like Blip, like the cinema snob, like himself, and the nostalgia critic, like I Hate Everything, and most people are talking about those content creators who are dealing with movies. But I want to take it a bit of a different direction, because there are 2 particular aspects to this, or maybe 3 if you want to count the music part of it, which a lot of content ID match claims come from, the music. I want to talk about the video game aspect of this, and I want to talk about the reaction aspect of it. And no doubt you know all about what happened with the Fine Brothers and how they got smacked to hell and back because of what they were trying to do. But I want to talk about a couple of people. I want to talk about the react part of it first, because there were a couple of friends of mine that were directly affected, and of course I was directly affected by this as well. And yes, there were quite a few people who got directly affected by Toei Animation and their copyright sweep of Sailor Moon Crystal. Now, we did not know what was going on at the time. They thought, okay, we were going through a thing where they were trying to get just about everybody who used YouTube as a dumping ground for the series, but then we started getting other content getting taken down, and Aura Peachy and Gaylor Moon and Omar Rogue and even some smaller channels were affected by this. And this is where it gets a little bit more problematic, because we are also talking about a show that is made in Japan, made in another country. The people who were doing the reactions live in the United States, as far as I'm aware. Peachy lives in the United States, so does Amber, so does Omar, so does the other smaller YouTube channels that I'm probably forgetting about. They live in the United States, and as that such, they live under the United States Fair Use Doctrine. Japan has no such fair use doctrine. They can get you for simply using an avatar, for a website, for a forum, or for whatever else. They can get you for that much. They have no such thing as a fair use system in play. So how do you combat that when you are dealing with 2 countries in which one particular country is equipped with the tools necessary in order to combat fair use, and the other one has no fair use whatsoever? That is kind of odd, and thankfully Viz has came to our defense, but it is a long drawn out process, especially when you see that Toei Animation took down one of my special reports. I talked about this before. Toei Animation is very aggressive at this. They are very aggressive. And special reports, the episode 31, which I talked about the director leaving stage left, it does raise some suspicion as to whether or not it was an actual Toei Animation person that went in and said, hey, we need to take this down or not, or as Viz might have suggested, that there might have been someone else that was fraudulently trying to be Toei Animation in order to spite me. And yes, I had considered that. I have considered that in the past, and quite frankly, I think it might be a valid concern. And that is a valid concern with a lot of these content ID claims and copyright strikes. This is a very valid concern that this whole copyright system leaves the door open for abuse like that, which somebody who does not like you and wants to make it known about how much they don't like you, or wants to take away you as a competition for them, to use that content ID match or use that copyright strike system as a way in order to get you off of YouTube. And that is an abhorrent way to do something like that. But it is something that you have to consider, and I don't doubt in any stretch of imagination that some people have tried to do just that. Now, what the Fine Brothers were trying to do, and what me and Peachy and Omar and Gaylor Moon and Alkira and other people were trying to do, is two separate things. We are reacting as a form of review. That is a form of reviewing the show in our eyes. And as such, we're not using the entirety of the show, and thus this does fall within fair use, or it should. What the Fine Brothers are doing is a little bit different, but it still falls under fair use in some form or fashion. Even if you do not agree with the recent things they have done, and no doubt a lot of people did not agree with some of the things that they have done, it is still fair use, even though they do something different. It's a different type of reaction, it's a different type of format, it's a different type of way you react to it. They react in such a way that they give their opinions of what was said in the video that they had watched. They had given their counterpoints or whatever. We are given our interpretation of what happened in the show, and we are given our review as to what exactly we thought of the episode itself and how the show is doing. That is a little bit different than just watching the video and giving our opinions about what was said in the video. So in that sense, I think anime reactors have to be protected a little bit better when it comes to stuff like that. We have to be protected a little bit more, and Japan needs to get a fair use doctrine in place. I think it is well overdue for them to at least consider it. Why have they not considered it yet? And if they have, I'm assuming they have not, but if they have considered it, why has it not been passed yet? Please, Japan, do it. Just do it. Why does it take you so long to do just that? But let's get to the gaming aspect of this. And a lot of people were talking about movies. They were talking about people like Disney, people like Warner Brothers, people like Universal, or anybody along those lines. Let's talk about video games. Let's talk about some of the recent situations that video gamers or Let's Players have had to deal with. And you don't have to go any further than to talk about one particular YouTuber, and I'm surprised that neither Doug Walker or another person who had created a video of his own, Monday Matt, touch upon. And this particular person, everybody probably knows if they have watched anything gaming related, and of course I'm talking about John Bain, or otherwise Total Biscuit. He has been hit with several YouTube copyright strikes before. If you remember, back in 2013, he got hit for his WTF is a Day One Scaries incident, and then later on in 2014, in the early part of 2014, by Fun Creators for his WTF of Guides of the Wolf. That is because they didn't like what he said, so they tried to use a DMCA copyright takedown system in order to censor his opinions of the game, because they thought it would affect sales figures, which that is probably what a review should do. And if you didn't like what he said, then maybe you should have created the game a little bit better. But that is not the only company that has done anything to TB. And obviously, we are going to be talking about the Sega of Japan situation. In case you were not aware, Sega suddenly went on a rampage and took down several videos from several people who were talking about Shining Force 3 or anything that had to do with Shining Force. Any kind of Let's Plays were taken down, and it was to raise the search ranking for their then upcoming game Shining Arc. That is pretty much illegal to do. That is unheard of for a company to be able to do something like that. And all TB really has wanted is an apology from Sega, and they have yet to do that. I don't know why Sega isn't doing just that much. If they did that, probably he would go back to reviewing some of their games, but I don't know why they won't do that. But of course, TB isn't the only YouTuber that has been affected, and Sega, nor Fun Creators, nor Wild Game Studios have been the only game developers that have done this sort of thing to YouTubers. In case you have been living under a rock, Nintendo had done its little creator content system of their own in order to give you permission to put their content up on YouTube through to Let's Plays or whatever. And after YouTube and Google get their part of your profit for the videos, and after an MCN that you would have takes their part of it, Nintendo then takes another part of it. They take something else in addition to what the other guys that are helping you out are getting. So that is even less money in your pocket, and if you're not affiliated through that, then they're going to content ID your videos and you will get none of the money, basically. And this is something that Nintendo has not been able to grasp for years now, that YouTube is a thing. The internet is a thing. It took Nintendo as long as they have in order to figure out that people want to play online. They want online connectivity in their systems. They just now got to doing that somewhat with the Wii, and then nearly full on with the Wii U, even though the friends code is still being a dick to people. Now with Twitch, they are just fine with Twitch. They are fine with people broadcasting their Nintendo games through Twitch, but YouTube is a little bit of a different animal to them for whatever reason. I have no idea. And then we get to digital homicide. This was really weird in how they went about it, and I don't know if I can really put it into better words than how Jim Sterling, the guy that was affected, put it. If you do not know what happened in this particular aspect, Digital Homicide created a game called The Slaughtering Grounds. It was a piece of shit. Jim Sterling told the world about it. Digital Homicide decided they were going to act like Donald Trump when he loses a caucus. They went back and forth, and it almost ended with Digital Homicide trying to take down Jim Sterling's video on The Slaughtering Grounds and threatening to sue him. I kid you not. This is after they went back and forth, and the Streisand effect went into full steam with everybody crapping on the game, and rightfully so, and pointing out just how much Google images they had stolen. Now, of course, everything else was just gravy to what this is all about, but you get my drift about the takedown notification. And of course, what happened at the beginning of 2014 when we had the MCN situation. Now, MCNs basically are multi-channel networks. I belong to one, and for GTV.com, they are affiliated. They are mothershipped by Maker Studios, which also houses Polaris, PewDiePie, Total Biscuit, Jessica, you name it, it's there. They are supposed to be a added level protection against this sort of thing, and in the past they have been pretty good about getting people protected against things like this. Sometimes they do fail though. Sometimes they will not be able to hold the ball for way too long, or they will drop the ball like a brick. In this particular case, I'm not 100% sure about what they termed this, but I believe it's affiliated and managed. Now, YouTube decided that the MCNs had to be broken up in some sort of way, and they decided on this particular method to have affiliated partners be brought back into the wild, where they had to deal with a whole bunch of copyright ID claims, and the ones that were managed was still basically managed as they were before this whole thing went down. One of the main YouTube creators who got affected by this was Angry Joe, and he got hit hard, and he laid everything out there of what he was flagged for, what he was concerned about, which is pretty much everything. And this was just content ID claims, but he did get striked on by Capcom Unity for his impression video. I think it was for Street Fighter V. However, Capcom rescinded that copyright strike because, one, he could prove that he had permission from Capcom Unity, which is the US market of Capcom, to create his video, which is something you need to consider, that some of these people who issued copyright strikes against Total Biscuit, Fun Creators, and Wild Game Studios had both said that they could make YouTube content of their game. So they had more than enough permission to do their content, and then all of a sudden it got taken down. Something to consider in that front as well. But also that the copyright strike, the issuing of it, the actual order to take it down was from the Japanese division. This basically means that there is some disconnect between the US divisions of these companies and the Japanese part of it. Basically going back to fair use as it pertains to which countries have a fair use doctrine and which ones do not, and how does YouTube sort all that out. it is hard as hell to do and why this needs to be addressed now. Obviously, this is not exclusive to movie companies. This is happening with game companies. This is happening with Let's Players. This is happening with reactors. This is happening with just about everybody in YouTube right now. Even for people who don't use any bit of actual footage from a game or a music or a movie or anything along those lines. This is because the DMCA system has been made to be abused by these people who either don't know any better or don't know what fair use is or have seen it as a way to trample upon the fair use rights of those people because they don't want for certain opinions to be seen, or by those people who want to stifle competition to their craft on YouTube. I'm looking at you, Fine Brothers. And here's the thing about the YouTube community. You don't have to agree with every single thing that a YouTuber says, but they have the right to say it. They have the right to put their opinions out there. You don't have to agree with every single thing that I ever say about a piece of content. You don't have to agree with everything Peachy says. You don't have to agree with everything TB says, or what Jim fucking Sterling's son says, or anybody along those lines, anybody else. We don't all share the exact same opinions that everybody else has. If we did that, the world would be pretty freaking boring. But we should defend the right for them to be able to say that. We should have the decent capacity, as long as it's not saying that we want to kill somebody or anything along those lines. As long as it's not vitriolic in nature, then they should be able to say what they want to say about a piece of content or about something that's going on in the world, whatever. And for YouTube to allow this stuff to go on, to allow not only content ID claims, but copyright strikes that cripple your channel, it is absolutely abhorrent. And they have let this happen for years because once the DMCA thing happened, they said, okay, our deal is done. We don't have to worry about it anymore. And that is something that should not be. That is something that needs to be addressed. It needs to be changed. And that's why the WTFU hashtag was created. And I fully 110% support that. And I would like for everybody to get behind this, regardless of whether or not you agree with a particular YouTuber that gets behind this. Get behind them, at least on this subject. Now, some people might not have a solution right away. I understand that. Some people might be able to think of something. I understand that as well. I agree with what Total Biscuit has said, that in order for YouTube to change, something needs to change in the current US copyright laws, because they cannot handle these types of digital situations in its current state. They need to be caught up. They need to address things like this specifically. The DMCA needs to be addressed in a way that it protects people's fair use rights. It protects people who are trying to review content. Those people, those independent content creators like myself, like Peachy, like TB, like Jim fucking Sterling's son, to create what they need to create in order to make a living and in order to inform you guys to our opinions or to our enjoyment of a particular piece of content. And what I would say, what I would bring up is to not only raise this up on Twitter, but to go to your congressman. If you live in the US, and I assume a lot of people who watch my content are from the US, but if you are in the UK or you're from some other country, find out what you have to do in order to contact your government official or whatever in order to address this subject. Because if enough people actually go to government officials to say, hey, we need this changed, chances are they will listen. Now, whether or not anything will happen remains to be seen, but at the very least, we are going to try to do something. I would say that it's time for, first of all, YouTube to get their damn act together and to give us a way to talk to a human, regardless of how many views or subscribers we have, but for copyright laws in different countries to get caught up with the times, because it has obviously not. And let's not pretend that this is exclusive to people who post movie reviews on YouTube. This is something something that affects all sorts of content creators, whether it be Let's Players, whether it be reactors, whether it be anybody else who might want to get started on YouTube doing anything at all. They are going into the lion's den, and the copyright holders, the ones that are abusing the system, are saying, I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me, and you're choosing to get locked in here with me because you're going right into the fire here. And that's something that should not be. That should not happen. So I implore everybody to get behind this. I implore everybody to contact your local congressman or your regional equivalent to get some of this straightened out. If you find a petition that has to do with WTFU, go ahead and sign it. Get something going. Let's get this escalated, because the more we let this continue, the more it's going to get abused, the worse it's going to get. And this has been going on since maybe 2007, 2009, and it has never changed. It has just gotten worse and worse and worse. And how long are we going to sit here? How long are we going to take this lying down while more and more people get abused by the system? More and more people get their livelihoods affected by the system. We have this whole mentality, this whole epidemic of when somebody bullies us with copyright laws and saying, take this stuff down. They're saying, oh, well, we need to do this. We need to comply with it. Maybe you're the one that needs to stand up for your rights. Maybe this is when you have to say, you know what? No, I know I'm in the right by posting this. I'm not taking my shit down. Come after me. Maybe that's what needs to happen here. Maybe that's what needs to be done, is somebody with enough guts in order to say, I'm not going to let you bully me. I'm not going to let you push me around, because I know that I am within my legal grounds of fair use in order to use your content for review or reaction or whatever. And with the examples I've demonstrated before, we can suspect that these companies have a vested interest in keeping it in a form that can be abused, because they want to be able to censor negative reviews. They want to be able to censor stuff like that. Let's be quite honest. They have a vested interest in keeping it the way they are. That's why they do this. That's why they are scared of this, because they don't want it to change. They would love it if the fair use doctrine went away. They would love it. Let's be quite honest. They don't want that fair use doctrine there. That is a thorn on their side, or at least it is to some of these companies like Digital Homicide, like Fun Creators, like Wild Game Studios, like some of these companies that are really abusing this sort of system. Digital Homicide, I said that 9 times out of 10 people will not go that extra step once they go past account notification. Digital Homicide was threatening to be that 10th person. They were going to be that person that went after him in a court of law. That's how bad it was about to be. And thankfully they said they backed off. They couldn't hold up to their end of the bargain in that front. But I bet you that it is going to happen at some point in time if this doesn't get resolved. So WTFU, where's the fair use? We have to find that out. I'm sorry I rambled on about this way too much. Been going on for about 30 or so minutes now, and I know I've been going on for a lot. This is a long time for you to hear me ramble on, to hear my voice, my annoying voice, say stuff about this, but this has to be addressed. You have the right as a content creator and as a consumer to be able to get content like this, and for companies to try to bully us into submission is not acceptable, and it should not be acceptable. Thank you very much for your time. My name is JD Shadow, and where's the fair use?